Welcome to the Tim Castle Live Show, where we meet courageous people doing inspirational things around the world. All right, I want to welcome you to a series myself and Chris Jarvis, author of Be the Giraffe, have put together for your listening pleasure. And I think there's just so many moments of gold packed into this, moments that will transform you. I've broken them into sessions of 20 minutes so that you can get maximum value. If you're on a walk, on a run, on the way to work, on a commute, on a bus, on a train, on a plane, wherever you are, just take this 20 minutes and absorb these lessons. Be the Giraffe is phenomenal. It's a book that touched my soul, and I believe it will touch yours. It will transform you. It will change how you approach that stress, that overwhelm, and actually just living a better life. And being able to do it across all verticals, across wealth, health, fun, happiness. Chris has the Wild Factor. And that's also a tool that you can go to chrisjarvis.me/Wild Factor to download. So I recommend you do that. This is a very special series coming from me and Chris to you to help you change your life, to transform and to get more out of life, more of the good stuff. So without further ado, welcome to the series.
And then a job interview was, I don't have the job. I don't have this job, which is why I'm interviewing. All I can do is increase my chances of having the job. So it's just, I just happen to look at it that way, that everything is, I can increase my chances. Or I'm not going to get the job sitting at home. So I'm not going to get into the college sitting at home. I'm not going to get the sale sitting at home. It just doesn't happen. And so you just go, okay, I got a chance. And sometimes you do well and sometimes you don't. And then you move on to the next one.
But I think there's a few things you've said there, just key words, like there's no attachment. There's, when you were talking about your financial business, the fact that you came at it from a different perspective. It wasn't necessarily, can I get wealthy? It was, can I add value? And, you talk a lot about heart and getting the most out of yourself. And then there's a piece around vulnerability and being able to leverage your vulnerability. How does someone do that in the realm of, cool, I've got to get out there and try. I know that's the way forward. I've got to bet on myself, but I have this lack of, I don't have the money, or I'm worried that I want the money. I want the big money. And that seems to be the dominating force. But I know I've got to lead with heart and I've got to be vulnerable. And it seems it seems unconventional, yet that is the strategy.
So I'll often get the question about millennials, Gen Z, whatever it is. And I have I hope I'll answer your question. I don't have any problem with young people wanting to have $1 billion. I don't have any problem with it. I think it's great. I have no problem with them wanting the jet and the boat. And even though those are things I don't want, and I'm on the board of a private jet company, actually, it's like, I don't aspire to have things. I own one nice watch. I wear it once in a while, and it's like a $5,000 or $7,000 watch. It's not a $500,000 watch. It just happens to match my wife's engagement ring, and just happen to have jewelry from the same jeweler, so we have something. And it's not that people want nice things. I think that's fine. The problem I have is the math. As a mathematician, you can have any amount of money you want. It's absolutely possible, but you have to understand the math. And what I mean by that is, if you want $1 million in a lifetime, in a year, in a transaction, in a day, and I've actually made more than $1 million on a couple different occasions on a single transaction. The only way to do that is, the way to look at that is, you can make $1 million when you can make or save somebody else $10 million. That math works. Like in my consulting, people ask me, what do I do? And I say, I'm in the business of trading quarters for dollars. If you give me a quarter, I will save you or make you $1. Like that. So I'm looking for businesses that have structures where I know I can create value pretty quickly, either with tax savings or restructuring or something. And it's, hey, if you've got $1 million problem I can solve, would you give me $250,000 to solve it? And they say, well, how much time is it going to take? I said, it doesn't matter how much time it takes.
It's a trade.
it takes me 3 minutes and I'm making $83,333.33 an hour. What do you care? If you pay me $250,000 and I save you $1 million, we should do that deal. And for people who have money, it's a real short conversation. I'm in the business of trading quarters for dollars. You give me a quarter, I save you and make you $1. And the answer, they almost interrupt me before I say else, and they're like, I'll do that every day.
Yeah.
Great. Good. Now we've established this is about value. Now I'm just trying to find somebody who has a problem that I can fix pretty quickly, so I can make that quarter in as little time as possible. And so when you change it to, I want to make $1 million, I need to find $10 million or $4 million or some trade-off, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 10-to-1, whatever, something, but the client's always getting more than you are. That's a trade most people are good with, where we're going to do something, you're going to do something for me and you're going to take less than I'm going to take. Like, it's just not hard. Right. And if somebody struggles with that, then just get the hell away from that hyena. You don't need any part of that. But
the math works.
The math just works on, I mean, if I told you tomorrow, Tim, give me $100,000 and I'll make you $1 million in podcast advertising by the end of the year. Like, you would do anything in the world to find the $100,000. Like,
it's coming your way.
Yeah. You wouldn't swim it over to me, but you would certainly get it here. And so so if people just think about, when you realize that's how the math works, it's not the thing that you do, it's the value of the thing that you do. What you do means nothing. Like, how you do it, it just doesn't matter. It's the value of the thing that you do. So you want to find the problems people have and then find a way to bring a better solution to them than the one that they already have. And so when I'm judging business plan competitions for people, who's your client? What problem do they have? Do they know it's a problem? What's the value of your solution versus the one they're already using? Like, I need those things, and I need you to tell me that in 5 minutes or less. And if you don't know the answer to that, you got to go find the answer to that and then come back to me and we'll talk again. But I don't care about all the other stuff. I need to know who's the client, what's the problem they have, do they know they have the problem, right? What's the problem? Do they know they have a problem? What is it worth to them to fix it? How is your solution better? Like, I need that. And so when I know that that's the formula, I tell people, you got to find people with really big problems where you can provide a solution that's better than the available solutions to them. And the only way, so now it's not focused on my thing, because nobody gives a shit about your widget. They don't care how it's made. They don't care about your SaaS. They don't care about your technology. They don't care about your app. They don't care about your coaching. They don't care about your style. They don't care about your history. It's all meaningless. The important thing is, what do you do for them? What's the value of the thing you can do to help them? That's the piece you need to focus on. And once you realize that, they come into companies for sales training or corporate stuff, and they hire somebody, and then they put them through some long training about the product or about the service or about the company. Nobody gives a shit. Like, there's plenty of people at the company who already know that story. Teach them how to interview people, how to ask questions, how to listen, right? Like, if you ask a lot of questions, then you'll get a lot of information, and you need that. So that's where people are wrong. They're all trying to figure out, how do I figure out the algorithm? How do I figure out how to hack things? Forget the hack. The hack thing is find out what somebody wants and then give it to them. Like, that's the hack. What do you need most? What is holding you back? What are you worried about? What do you desire? Why do you desire it? And then if I can come back and go, oh my God, you need this, then let me solve that, or find a creative way to solve that for you. And that'll be worthwhile. Way more important than like, you can do all this social media magic, but at the end of the day, it will eventually come down to, at some point, someone's going to say, okay, what do people pay you and how much do they make or save? Like, you're going to have to demonstrate results at some point. There have to be results, right? You have advertisers on the podcast, they'll advertise, but if nobody ever converts, they will stop. I don't care how many people you purport actually listen. If they advertise and nobody buys the thing that they advertise, they will not keep advertising. And if your podcast has a bunch of horrible guests like me, but people sell a lot of stuff, they'll keep advertising like crazy. Like, it's
not the thing.
Come down to results.
It's really the end impact. Did you create that formula? Yeah. Was the value there? It's an
Just
extension.
start with what do you want, and then go back to what can I do. But it has to be client focused. It has to be problem focused, and also the things that are more quantifiable are the easier things to sell, right? So selling
Mm.
you tax savings is $1 for $1. It's really easy. Selling you an increase in readership, listenership, following. Okay, but what does that really lead to? Am I actually, because getting followers, but if they don't buy your product, if they don't engage with you, if they don't engage with your sponsors, then
Mm.
they're meaningless. They're completely meaningless if you don't figure out, they just
What do
are.
you want? Yeah.
Yeah, they don't mean anything. Like, oh, so you're friends? So a bunch of people who mean nothing, who are all competing for a bunch of meaningless currency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the point of what are we going to do this for rubles? We're going to do this for Confederate dollars? Like we can monopoly money? Like it doesn't, they're all things that people are competing for, but they're not the thing that actually, they can be a means to something else, but you got to be thinking about that something else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So for me, this is the, God, what problem am I solving? And generally speaking, there's only two problems: time and money. That's it. Like you're saving people time, you're making or saving people money. Like, and at the
But what?
highest end of town, time is worth more than money.
Mm. Yeah. And what you're offering here, like even with the exam and the interview examples and this example, they're just different ways to look at things that people are coming at it from literally the opposite end of the scale here and saying, and that's why they're bashing their head against a wall, because you can't solve it that way by looking at it that way. If you look at it the way you've explained in each of those scenarios, you're already winning before you even enter that room to go talk to someone, because you've got the right question, to get the right answers, to get the right, and you can articulate your value in 5 minutes or less, whatever it is, what you do, and you know that the game's already set up in your favor because they're going to take that deal all day long. Because if you can, like you said, 25 cents versus $1, it's a no-brainer.
I mean, and it takes time. Like this isn't all going to happen over time. I was 42 years old. I had been divorced, kicked out of a company that I owned, had really, was really in a bad place. And I can remember my first client in my new firm, I was nervous sending him a $2,500 engagement letter for 6 months of financial planning.
Mm.
The engagement letter I sent out yesterday was $500,000.
And just, yeah.
Like for 2 years. So it went from 2,500 to 250,000. It's 100x more
Mm-hmm.
per year in 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't 12 years from 16 to 28. Like it was 12 years from 42 to 54. I mean, it was like I was already established, but some of that is mindset, some of that is value, some of it is like it takes time. It's not, I wasn't, like I made a lot of mistakes in my 30s and 40s. I'm sure I'll make more, but this takes time but it gets to, I want to solve problems. Then it eventually becomes, I'm solving the same problem, but for somebody who's worth more. So if I can
Mm-hmm.
save you hours, like my thing too with financial planning, it's not just the 250,000 to save you $1 million. Sometimes it's the 250,000 to save you time so you can go do that other thing that you do, because you're the guy who's making $15 million a year, $10 million a year. For you, like your weeks are worth $400,000. If I save you 1 week of work, you'll make more than that in addition. So for people who are super successful, their
Mm-hmm.
time is worth more than their money. That, like I've gotten to the point with my clients that, I mean, until somebody realizes their time is worth more than their money, they're chasing the wrong thing, because you can't get time back. Right?
Wow.
Like that's an abundance mentality too, that time is opportunity. Money is just, it's money. Like you only have so many minutes on the earth left. You don't know how many there are. And
That's the
the more you give away chasing money, which means nothing, which cannot be easily converted into love, relationship. Like, it just doesn't. So, we do fall victim to we measure the things we chase the things we can measure. Because you don't get a daily grade, I assume, from your wife and kids on how good a dad or husband you are.
I wish I did. Imagine that.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. Like that's like, it's another exercise we do sometimes in coaching is like, ask your spouse or your kids on a scale from 1 to 10, how am I doing? And anything other than a 10, there's a follow-up question.
Mm.
right? What could I do to make this better?
Wow.
And it's a bold question, but it's, if you have the balls to ask it, you can improve your relationship with anybody. Like, it just, on a scale from 1 to 10, how am I as a friend? How am I as a husband? How am I as a father? How am I as a brother? How am I as a son? How am I as a, and what could I do to make it better? Is there anything I do to make it better?
Wow. This is mad. Yeah, this is, you can see how it's so powerful, but would help you improve.
Sure. Because you're
But people
asking
don't
it
want to
out of
ask it.
love. I mean, and if somebody gives you a 3 or a 4, you're like, okay, wow, I'm so sorry. What could I do to make that better? Like, you should know, like, somebody that you care about enough to ask that question because you want the answer. You're not looking
Mm,
for a 10 so you can get a pat on the back and go, look at me, I'm
mm,
dad of the year. It's like, you don't want to wear the dad of the year shirt your kid gave you. You want your kid to think of you as the dad of the year.
mm,
Like, the feeling is more important than the trophy, right?
mm,
So, I think you ask those questions, and then things become quantifiable, and that's part of the wild factor quiz, is we put numbers on things like relationships and health and fun, right? That you have just something to measure against to see, okay, how am I
mm.
balancing my life?
And what, like we discussed last time, what's your predominant thought process around, like, what do you lean into first and what gets dropped off? But what you've just described there around the career side of things, or just the fact that the system is set up to trade time for money, but there are probably better ways for people to solve that equation when they flip it and go, well, what do I want? And what areas am I not leading into? How does someone do that though if they're chasing money, but actually they just have to solve bigger problems, or they just have to put themselves thinking about it from a time perspective of how can I create the money I
What do you mean?
need? Or
Assuming everybody wants to be paid for their work, what do you think that means, though? Like, they're chasing money. You mean
meaning that
they're,
the time glass has been turned over, we're all running out of time. Really,
yep.
what they want is to go out and live life and have all these wonderful experiences with their kids while they're young, or to go around the world and just take 6 months off and do all these things. And as we started the conversation, that doesn't work unless the maths work. It doesn't work unless you've worked your ass off to actually get to a point where you've actually created enough value to go do that. But yet they still want it. Yet they're trapped in, well, the only way I know to produce the income I have is do this thing, or do this thing a bit better, but they're only going to do it 10% better. Or, like, how do they make that exponential jump
Yeah.
to go 100x, like you just said, from
Yeah. Well,
2,500 to,
I mean, you have to ask questions. You have to reach out. It's not going to come from an hourly job. It's not going to come from a salary job. Even if you're in a salary job, go to your boss, your manager, and ask, like, what the biggest challenges are. What do they need? What does this look like? And then ask the question, what would it be worth if we could actually do that? I need 3 more people. Great. Like, why don't we have them? Well, because we have to interview them and do this and pay a recruiter and do this. Great. What would it be worth to find them?
mm,
Like, what is that worth to us? And if they say, oh, it's worth, we pay a recruiter $75,000 or pounds to bring somebody in. Like, if I could find 3 people who stay for 6 months, would you give me the 200 pounds, 200,000
mm,
pounds, or the 100,000
mm,
pounds? And then, you're only gonna recommend that job to your friends who do good work. The guy who sucks, you're like, I'm not putting my neck out for that guy.
mm,
But you just find a problem that somebody, again, realizing most successful people have money but don't have time. That you as a younger person have time. You have a ton of time. So find things where it can be value driven and go run around. Like, it's not going to happen immediately because as a younger person, you don't have a huge network, you don't have a lot of knowledge, you don't have a lot of technical experience, but you want to figure out what those things are that people want to get done but don't have time to get done. And then you want to create a tool or an opportunity or a process that allows those things to get done, that they would give you the check to do. They just can't take away from the other thing. This is going to cost me $1,000 an hour in my time to get done, and I need 50 hours. But the problem is I got 50 other hours that I could do to do something to make $5,000 an hour. So I'm never going to get to this thing. So go do that thing for somebody that's worth 50 grand for them,
mm,
and take 10, 20 grand for doing it.
mm,
Like, you have to figure out the relative value of things, not as soon as it's time and salary, you're screwed. Because they're paying you and you're there for a certain number of hours, and whether you're really good or you're really bad, you might get a really small difference in your raise. You got to find some things you can do that are value driven, but that's
mm,
only going to come from you being curious, asking questions, putting yourself out there, talking to people. I mean, my first job was connecting doctors to advisors who could help them. I didn't know anything about medicine. I didn't know anything about law. I didn't know anything about tax. I didn't know anything about finance.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm on the board of a med school. I'm on the board of a business school, and I have some of the largest accounting firms in the world that come to me for tax ideas because I asked a lot of questions, right? Like that's, I learned about a bunch of stuff. And it was, again, at 25, I didn't know anything. And at 54, some of the biggest firms in the world come to me for ideas on stuff.
That's very cool.
So
But
I don't know.
you also willing to stick your neck out, but to be curious, to insert yourself in that conversation, say, hey, how are you going with this thing? And explain to me a bit about it, and then go, well, if I can do this and this based on these terms, would this be the outcome?
Yeah.
And then you've created. It's not just going. I mean, maybe it does now, but in that gap between 44 and 52, or whatever it is, like you've started to move down that way where things start to flow in a bit more. But you've had to jump in and put yourself in, figure it out. You've had to do the thinking to
Yeah.
go, that is a problem they have that I can solve. That if I create the environment, or I plant the seed, that
Yeah.
money or that opportunity is coming to me, that because I'm going to give that value.
Yeah. I mean, I've generated I think over $50 million of legal fees for a variety of law firms around the country. And I think total marketing and reciprocal dollars I've had back is less than a couple, certainly less than 5. I've made very, very little. You know,
On
the trade-off is
it's
definitely way skewed toward the law firm versus me. But as a result, I've had a lot of interactions with lawyers and accountants, and I know a lot about how they work. So not everything, like that's part of putting yourself out there, is you learn something and you may have to make some people a lot of money. And so for that was tuition. I traded my time to
yeah,
give them money to give me knowledge. And that, that's part of it. But ask people, what can I do? Do stuff for free, realizing some people will take advantage of you, some people will mentor you, some people may repay you, but that's part of getting yourself out there to understand the people, the problems, why they don't get to them, what's going on, and understanding who the other people are to solve problems. And again, for me with the tax stuff, you know, sharing how what I do is a little different is most accountants are trying to avoid risk. So for them, it's a success if you don't get audited. But so they're going to be really conservative with the reporting because they don't want you to be upset with them for not, because they get paid the same amount for the time, whether your deduction is $1 million or your deduction is 10 million, that they're still
right,
charging you by the hour.
sure,
So there's no incentive for them to take chances. So sometimes just the model's broken. So you want to find people who might look at it a little differently. So yeah, so I mean, some of putting yourself out there is you just don't know, and you're going to have to say you don't know. But it's also, I'm going to do some work for free for somebody you admire. I've ended up hiring a couple people who have listened to my lecture and then volunteered to do something for me to win my, affection or interest or awareness of them. And then I ended up paying them for stuff. So that's an option too. Like just offer to do something for free for somebody. There's not a lot of no's when it comes to free. And then they learn that you're really good. So you want to apply for an internship at your school? That's stupid. Like just reach out to somebody that you admire and offer to do something for free. And if you do something for free that makes them money, they'll hire you. Because you've
right.
already proven that with no pay, you add value. So there's no risk to hiring you once you've already added value for no pay. Plus you showed the initiative of offering.
It's
So
equation. Yeah.
yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult, but that's not the model. Everybody's like, well, I have to go to the career services and they're going to give me an internship, or I have to go look up Indeed and find a job posting. And I don't know, what are the odds of somebody posting something that's exactly you? I mean, the problem with the job posting is someone in their mind has an idea of who this person is. You're probably replacing somebody. So they already have somebody in their mind. This job is probably ideal for somebody who's of this age and this gender and this background and this language, who has education of this, who has this experience. I mean, what the hell are the chances that you're that person? Versus if someone just contacted Tim Castle out of the blue and said, hey, I'd love to help you grow your audience. I'll do it for free. But if it turns out to be this much, maybe we can discuss some back end thing, but I'll do it for nothing. What are you going to say? Scram? Are you going to be like, all right, I'm interested. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
right? You know, I get pinged on LinkedIn 5 times a day. People want to take my marketing to the next level.
Yes,
My
yes.
response is always the same thing. If you will bet on yourself and take a percentage of the dollars you create, please respond. If you don't waste my time. Please unfollow me.
How many come back?
Not many.
Yeah,
One.
yeah, 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 yeah.
One. Like, if you can't bet on yourself, I have no interest in you. Versus, oh no, we only charge, dude, if you think talking to me is worth $197 a month, I'm telling you that if you can actually help me increase book sales by my royalties by $100,000, I'll give you 75,000 of it. Like, you can have
Right.
3/4 of it, like, take it. If you're going to do
Mm-hmm.
it on your own dime, like, fine, you can have the lion's share, you put the risk up.
Mm-hmm.
Take it all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's you want, no, I think 197 is like, you're just a liar.
Yeah.
Like, to me and to yourself, like, that's why would you, if you are any good, why would you take 197 a month? And if it's because you're independently wealthy, then you shouldn't be DMing people on LinkedIn.
That wouldn't work. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make
Mm.
any sense. Like,
So you're saying that the deal structure that people propose actually gives you insight into to whether they're any good or not straight away?
100%. Well,
Because you,
yeah,
yeah.
I will bet on me. I will take no, or I'll take some, or I'll take much less. I got a famous family in the United States to work with me. They were struggling to add somebody else to the team because other people felt threatened by me. And I said, great. I said, who's the lowest paid person in your family office?
Mm.
And it was, like somebody who cleans the office or somebody who did something. And I said, great, pay me the same as the lowest paid person on your payroll. And they said, why would you do that? I said, because nobody can object to it.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
once I get in there, we'll work on stuff and you'll see the value. And then it won't matter what the objections to the rest of the team are. So essentially I'm coming in for, like, yeah, but your time is worth, is like, yeah, but the relationship is worth more than
Mm.
like, whether you pay me $5,000 or you pay me, $105,000 to do this project, it's certainly not going to change your life. It's not really going to change mine that much because I'm looking at a long-term relationship that'll be worth a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just remove the hurdle, and then you won't listen to those other people. And then once
Right.
I'm in there, you're like, oh my God, then the next contract will be, you can make it up to me later.
That's so big, Chris. Man. That's it. That's what people should be thinking like. Like you in that moment have just created the incentive to work with you and the opportunity, but the underpinning it all is the fact that you are betting on you and you're so confident that you're going to deliver that you just get in the door, get in there, let me do my thing.
Right.
And you've isolated the hurdle already. So there's no objection. So then you go and do your thing, and then the contracts in the future and the relationship and all of that blossoms and grows because rather
Right.
than going in at the top level where you say you've got hurdle, like show me the results, show it's just a challenge all the time, blockage,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of stress. And whereas it,
Yes. Like,
you're
that's
flipping it again. Yeah, you're
right.
flipping
I
it
mean,
again.
I like high fee minimum with back end deals for myself. Like, I mean, obviously part of this is a game, is how big of can I make the engagement every time? Just because once you've made $1, making a quarter is not interesting, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
once you've made
Mm-hmm.
$10, making $3 is not interesting. So there's always some, how do you make the thing bigger? But even though I like that, I find that there's some, when I'm talking to a client, especially if I try not to do a lot of stuff with big companies, but when I am talking to big companies, I realize that everybody has an authorization limit in how much
Mm-hmm.
check they can actually write before they have to get another signature. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'll come right out and ask, do you have any budgetary or signatory restraints that we should work around? Because when I come out, when somebody wants me to do a deal, sometimes they're buying books and they're buying speaking fees and they're buying consulting and they're buying, there's a whole bunch of things. And I said, I'm asking because I can structure this thing in a way that, like, let's say you have $100,000 book budget because the person's an avid reader, then I'll charge 75,000 for the books and I'll charge 5,000 for the speaking because I'm falling inside of your thing versus someone says I can only write a check for 25 for, I can't write any more than 25 for consulting, or I can't write any more than this, or I
Mm-hmm.
can't buy. Okay, fine, then we'll adjust the deal. But then they're also telling me what they can sign. And then I put the deal together that fits inside of, so they can move forward and not get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't ask that question, you don't know how to structure it. But I'm doing it not in a way to stick it to them. I'm doing it by saying, well, obviously we've been talking for this long. We have some interest. how of the different pieces I can structure them differently so it fits inside of your budget, your restraints, your signatory. Just, do you have any guidance for me on that so I can make this thing fit?
Hmm.
They'll say, and usually I get a thank you very much. And it's also the appreciation that I know that there's something behind this. So I'm getting to, hey, I just can't spend more than this. You're like, great, let's do step one then. If your budget's 10,000, let's do step one for 7,500.
Yeah.
And we'll just get the first thing done. And
And
then we
why is
can go
that
from
good? Because then you go and you deliver your value, and it's more than obviously 7,500, and
yeah,
then step two becomes unlocked.
that's the hope, right? I mean, but then they know, because once they've worked with you, it's a different story. It's, oh, this went so great. Oh, it's that
Yeah,
guy. They're
yeah.
investing in someone they've already had an interaction with, not reading a piece of paper or a PDF or a PowerPoint, or, it's not a proposal. It's, wow, that went great. What's the next step? And then you over deliver the hell out of it. So you get 7,500, you do 25,000 worth of work, but you do that because the next stage of this process is going to be 75 grand or whatever the relative value is, right? That's the point. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it's getting to value, but it keeps coming back to, you need to ask questions to find out it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean my keynote's not worth 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't have 50 for speakers, if they only have in the meeting budget 25 grand or 5 grand, but they've got 50 sitting in another fund for books, then it's 50 grand worth of books and it's $4,000 for the speaking fee. Like, wow, you came in under on the speaking. You're like, yeah, but I also charge you, you're going to have a warehouse full of books.
Yes.
But if that's what works, then, I mean, but that's part of the being the draft, is just understanding, just understanding. You have to understand their situation, their problems, their interests, their goals, their opportunities, their restrictions. When you understand those things, it makes it so much easier to slot in what you do, how you do it, how you charge for it. But if you don't ask that, you just throw something out and go, well, hey, I'm Mr. $50,000 keynote. They only gave me only offered me 17. And then you're offended.
Mm.
Dude, it's all you had in the budget. Like, these departments have budgets and they have things they have to come in for, but they might have they might have a professional development budget of 250 grand. So go do the talk for 7,500. So the meeting guy feels like he came in 10 grand ahead.
Yep.
And then you go get the professional development stuff and you get paid 10x what you were getting paid for coaching. Like,
Right. That's the giraffe.
yeah, it just comes from asking and understanding, as opposed to just looking at the box of, hey, I know this guy got 25 and I'm better than he is, so I got to get 27.5. Like, that's ego. And that's, because at the end of the day, that's not what the goal is. The goal is to create value for the client, so the client has you do more and more things.
Mm.
And the value for you is you get paid fairly for your time, and you're rewarded financially and emotionally and intellectually, whatever those things are that are important to you.
So good. This is so good. I could talk to you for ages, as I know these conversations are.
As we have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just looked at the clock. I'm like, blimey, it's happened again. It's happened again.
We'll have
Goes
to do
so
it again.
fast. We will. No, thank you, Chris, for coming on. Like, just so much value. I mean, in these conversations, but so much penny drop moments, even just for myself. Just the pieces. They're just profound in the way that they just unpack things. I feel like you're just getting things that you didn't know, problems you didn't know you had, or ways you've been addressing things. But people will listen to this and find problems that they're in. They'll have listened to your words today, and they'll be unstuck now because of that, and they'll be able to move forward. And that's what I would suggest. Just read Be the Giraffe. Get a copy. Read Be the Giraffe and highlight all of these parts, and just own this philosophy and start moving like the giraffe, because I'm just getting it even just now again. And that's, you can't make that up. You can't make it up. So I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful.
Well, you're welcome, and I'm grateful you had me on here, and I'm happy to. I love talking to you every time, Tim. So you let me know. I'm sure it will. I'm willing to do it again. If you have not had enough of me, there will be. You can have more, and we'll see if I can help
I love
the
it.
audience
I
in
love
any
it.
way. Then I'm happy to.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for sharing and rating this show. It helps us reach more people and spread the message. That message is the believe it as possible message. I want you to believe in you, believe in the situation, and believe in your bigger life. That's why I created the School of Success. It's a selection of short courses that can help boost your skill acquisition in negotiation, sales, and self-transformation. This is where it's at, and I want you to win. I I want you to build your empire, the empire of you, and become more. So if you're looking to know how to deal with difficult people, to negotiate at an expert level, to sell, and to become more yourself, to develop your mindset, your confidence, to be able to then think about how to elevate your business, this might be for you. So head on over to the School of Success and look at the links in the show notes and get on over there and check out the short courses that we have for you.